Hello, everyone. This is Elshad Hasanov. I'm a medical oncology fellow at MD Anderson Cancer Center. Today here in the practice update, I'm with Dr. Eric Jonasch, who is the professor in our GU department and also director of the VHL clinic. Hello, Dr. Jonasch.
Hey there, Elshad.
So today I want to discuss with you the recent FDA approval of Belzutifan for cancers associated with the VHL disease. First of all, congratulations that you led this study, and now we have this drug available for the patients with VHL disease. So how is this study was designed to work?
This is a registrational, single-arm, open-label, phase 2 study. So it's kind of perhaps some contradictions right there. But because this is a rare patient population, the FDA agreed that if a clinical trial was executed with a minimum of 55 patients powered to look at response in renal cell carcinomas of these individuals, and if there was sufficient shrinkage, this would be considered an approvable agent. So that's how this trial was designed.
And in terms of the mechanism of the action, could you please also describe what was the mechanistic rationale of this agent?
Yeah, so VHL is a ubiquitin ligase that regulates HIF2 alpha and HIF1 alpha. So if you have damage to VHL or lack of activity of VHL, you get very high levels of HIF2 alpha and HIF1 alpha. And these are transcription factors that transcribe a number of genes that are associated with metabolism and angiogenesis and other factors that promote cell survival. So being able to block the transcription of these genes by blocking HIF2 alpha seemed like a very reasonable strategy therapeutically. Very difficult to create small molecule inhibitors of transcription factors because they're very small, slippery proteins. But thankfully, a group at UT Southwestern was capable of doing that. This drug was then further developed by a company called Peloton, was acquired by Merck, and then Merck helped push this over the line to the approval that we now have.
And now looking into the details of the study findings, so what was the data that supported the drug's approval from the study?
Yeah, so in the end, 61 patients were accrued. And we saw that there was a confirmed 49% objective response rate in the renal cell carcinomas. We saw that in the hemangioblastomas in these patients, there was a 30% objective response rate, which is far higher than we've seen with any other treatment. And we also saw in the pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors and the pancreatic cysts that there was an extremely high objective response rate in these lesions. Once again, something that we had not been seeing with other therapies. And lastly, the retinal hemangioblastomas. Of the 16 retinal hemangioblastomas that were being followed in the trial, 10 of them had some measure of benefit, and the remainder had at least stabilization of the disease.
And now, based on this efficacy results, it sounds very helpful that now we have this drug available for treating the VHL patients. How about the toxicity profile of the agent? What were you experienced in the study that we should be careful and watching while using this agent?
A great question, Elshad. And as we are starting to prescribe this now for our patients, what I'm telling them is, number one, we clearly are seeing anemia. And that's because HIF2 alpha actually is the transcription factor that regulates erythropoietin or EPO. So we do see hemoglobins that can drop. The package insert for this agent states that you should do transfusions and not give ESAs. That's an interesting statement, but that's what the package insert says. On the clinical trial, we did use ESAs and they were effective. The other thing is that there can be some hypoxemia, and this is something that we can monitor. And I've been telling all of my patients to basically go on Amazon and get a pulse oximeter and check their oxygenation levels. And the third thing is that you can see a little bit of fatigue, and that could be because of the anemia or the hypoxemia, but it's really not something that's terribly disruptive. So it's a remarkably well-tolerated agent overall.
I see. Okay. And now, based on the approval, so is this agent can be used to treat all tumors that can form as a manifestation of the VHL syndrome, or particularly one or the other?
The approval, again, to our surprise and delight, was for renal cell carcinomas, for pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors, and for hemangioblastomas. And if you look at all of the patients with VHL disease, you're going to end up seeing that there's virtually no patient, except for the ones that are just have pheochromocytomas, the 2Cs, that pretty much everyone is going to fit into that category. There are some other tumor manifestations, endolymphatic sac tumors, for example, epididymal and round ligament cystadenomas that are not, part of the official approval, but generally these co-migrate with these other, and so you can get this drug approved for most patients with VHL disease.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonasch. It was great to see these study results, and hopefully we will see that the patients will get benefit from this approval all over the world.
Yeah, we're very, very excited about this, and looking forward to seeing in the post-approval world how this is helping patients who have VHL disease.
And then lastly, actually, I also want to ask you about on the group that are not responding to the therapy. So what are the works going on in terms of understanding the resistance mechanisms to the other group?
Yeah, it's a challenge to really do work on that. For example, if you have hemangioblastoma that's progressing, we can, in those individuals, if they require surgery, perform surgery and try to understand by looking at those lesions what the drivers of resistance may be. Similarly, in renal cell carcinoma. So as we move forward and as we gather real world evidence about the efficacy of this, it is going to be important to gather those tissues to be able to molecularly understand the mechanisms of resistance.
Okay, thanks again. And it was a pleasure to discuss this FDA approval for the Belzutifan for the VHL patients with you.
Thanks, Elshad.